What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So something that's been brought up quite a bit in the first half of the Switch's generation is the eShop and how difficult it can be at times to find different games with all of the shovelware and smaller games just get thrown on there daily. Well, now it looks like Nintendo has a patent that shows them working towards ways to recommend you different games, as well as even user ratings, and we'll go over all of that here today. Also, there was a lot of talk yesterday about the Xbox Series X and the Series S and online DRM or check-ins and activations, and I wanted to also go over that one here. And we're also going to be talking about Biomutant as reviews went live online, and they're pretty mixed overall. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with an Easter egg that's been found on the original Xbox that's been hidden for the last, 20 years now, and this was posted up by Kotaku. They have a video showcasing it, and I kind of understand why it's been hidden for so long, because it's not exactly an obvious thing to do to see a couple of names from the original team that actually did the Xbox dashboard, but you can see some of the video here and even the steps in order to do this, which has you put in an audio CD, you have to copy the CD over, which remember the original Xbox could rip different music CDs that you would have, and when you go to name the soundtrack title, it was Timmy with 26 Ys and an exclamation point at the end, at which time if you go into the settings and system menu, you will see a new screen that lists the members of the Xbox dashboard team, which yeah, I mean, it's an interesting Easter egg. It's nothing mind-blowing, obviously. It's not like it changes all these different things around in the menu, nothing like that. But, I mean, obviously it seems that people who made the dashboard thought, hey, this would be a fun Easter egg for people to find, and no one really did, because it actually took a developer who wanted to remain anonymous to kind of tip them off about this, and then they told everyone online. So unfortunately, it wasn't one that people just stumbled across. I guess no one thought to punch in Timmy with 26 Ys and an exclamation point. Also, we've talked about the Sonic anniversary this year and how we're expecting Sega to at least do something with it. Well, we can head over here to VGC because it does look like there could be a Sonic collection of some kind coming up here. This after a new listing was spotted on French retail site So Gamely? We'll go with that. The same company which seemingly outed an upcoming Sonic Colors remaster last month, and the listing simply named Sonic Collection EU version. Now, as VGC points out, this does line up with claims from an insider around the idea of Sega planning a new collection with retro engine remakes of Sonic 1 and 2, and other games that have never seen a re-release before, which we also heard talk around Sonic 3 getting re-released, which had some music issues apparently there, and who knows, they could do all kinds of other things. I mean, really, just throw Sonic 06 in there and call it a day, because that's a game that, it's so bad, it's good, and I think they at least owe us that 4K, 60 frames per second Sonic 06. I mean, why not? It's the anniversary year. Oh, and I know we talked before about Vicarious Visions, who worked on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and it's an awesome game, but they were sent off to work on Diablo 2 at Blizzard. However, it does look like maybe something else Tony Hawk related is coming in the future here. We can actually take a look here. This was over at Destructoid, where we can see the CKY drummer and brother of Bam Margera himself recently confirmed on the Behind Closed Doors podcast that his band's music would appear in the new one coming out too, referring to a new Tony Hawk game. As Push Square points out, Margera notes that he's not talking about the recently released 1+2, and it is pointed out here by Destructoid that CKY did have music in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, and I mean, a lot of us assumed, okay, they did 1+2, maybe now they'll do 3 and 4, and then if that goes over well, they'll then do Underground 1 and 2 in a collection. I mean, why not? The 1 and 2 seem to work out pretty well for Activision overall. The only thing is, Vicarious Visions is working on Diablo 2, so is this something that maybe they're using, similar engine and assets from 1 and 2 to work on this? Maybe Vicarious Visions already did a lot of work for 3 and 4, and Activision's kind of getting it to the finish line with another studio. A lot of questions here, but we've seen this actually leak out before other projects from different musical artists and all of this, so it wouldn't surprise me to hear that there is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 coming. I'm just not really sure when. Do we have to wait for Vicarious Visions to finish up on Diablo 2, or is this something we can look forward to maybe a bit sooner? And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this patent that was found online, as it was published pretty recently, but it does date back like years ago when it was originally filed, and we can actually see some of the patent here, and we can see the application date for this was September 27th, 2019, and the publication was April 1st, 2021. We can see some images here of it, and if we head over to Nintendo Life, they have part of the description here saying, generate a base rating that is a function of gameplay data for a specific user, an average external rating for a video game based on external data categories. And they go on a bit further here to describe this as the end goal of even recommending games to different users. People who are browsing eShop and maybe you click on one game and you're looking at it, then on the side it comes up as, hey, you like this game or you've played these games, check out these ones. And just a way to help you navigate the eShop a bit better. Now, the user reviews and ratings is interesting because remember, years ago, Nintendo had these go live, and I think it was live for like a week for ratings that they tried on the eShop through their website. And then they took them down and they said, we're gonna reevaluate this a bit more, which would have been, I believe, a year before this was filed. So it's almost like, okay, they checked it out. They said, how would user ratings work? And they probably collected data there and then went off, worked on it, and came up with this patent here. Now, this patent in particular has been published. There's a whole publication date and all this behind it. So it's now public, obviously, but that tells me that Nintendo is working out how they're going to approach the eShop when it comes to organization and discovery. And I've been thinking for a while that we could see some substantial update to the eShop, like a massive overhaul of it, mostly because they haven't really done too much with this. I mean, they've a few things here and there that they've added, maybe for like ticking a box for games with demos, just as an example there. But like overall, the look of it, the way it's set up, how you navigate, that's all still pretty much the same. And the idea of having user ratings, user reviews, maybe even ones you can write out, although well, we've seen how that goes sometimes on Metacritic. We're to the point where bad games get really good user reviews as jokes. So I feel like Nintendo might even be looking at this and saying, okay, well, how can we make it so that every review that's left by a user or rating is objective and it's not a joke or review bombing or any of that? It's gonna be very difficult to do so. But I guess the one thing here is the eShop would be tied to your purchases or games you've played recently. So maybe they could have it that you can't necessarily leave a rating on a game that you either don't own or have never even played. I mean, they track play history and all of that as well, so you figure everything links up with your Nintendo online account, and they could say, hey, you haven't played this game at all, why are you gonna leave a full review for it? Now, it also mentions external data categories, or I guess critic reviews outside of the eShop, maybe on Metacritic, but they have an adjustment factor that will change based on what you're playing or what you're playing more of or less of. That's, I guess, the way that they could tell if you enjoy something. Like if you're signing in every day and you're playing hours of Fortnite, well, they'll probably show you V-Bucks on the side, or maybe they'll show you Apex Legends or other Battle Royale style games. It's at least something that is moving in the right direction for Nintendo. If this patent actually leads to anything, that's, I guess, another question we have here. But here's hoping that pretty soon we can see some large overhaul of the eShop, because we're kind of running out of time this generation for anything substantial to be happening there. Next up, let's talk about the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, but really I guess this dates back to like the Xbox One, that having to do with online check-in with these different games from Microsoft and their different systems. Now, what happened yesterday was Modern Vintage Gamer put out a video going over his concerns with DRM on the Xbox Series X that he had just received. And as he was setting it up, he started, I guess, just popping different games in and realized something. You have to be online for a lot of these games, and that's correct. See, up until this point, MVG has had an Xbox Series S, which, I mean, you're going to be connected to the internet to play that because there's no disk drive for physical media anyway. But as he noted in his video, he would take an Xbox One game, pop it into the Series X, it would install, but then it would request an internet connection for activation, whether it was pulling different files down so that it could have configuration set up for the Xbox Series X. Which of course leads to the situation of, what if you just don't have an internet connection at that time and you want to play one of your Xbox One games, as Microsoft has made a big push for backwards compatibility, so we can even be talking about like a 360 game or an original Xbox game. Well, those ones, when you pop the disc in, it still basically downloads the game from the server anyway, and I feel like most of us have realized that. But the Xbox One situation was an interesting thing to see. However, it does appear that if you have an Xbox Series X game, like you tested Devil May Cry 5, that will work after installing from the disc without an internet connection. And there was one post that was kind of being passed around from an Xbox developer over on Reset Era that does go over all the different scenarios. This was posted up a little while ago, and we can see this here. This was from Oscar saying, OG Xbox 360 needs to be online to install, as the disc is just a key that allows you to download the game and emulator. That's correct. Xbox One games need to be online one time during install to download specific configuration files separate from actual game patches. Smart delivery games depend on how much is actually on the disc. So for example, as we see here, if the Xbox Series X and S version is on the disc, then can install offline, but if it's stub only, then the smart delivery portion is delivered as an upgrade patch. The native Xbox Series X and S games can install offline, as we did see with Devil May Cry 5. So obviously it's a bit of a confusing thing to navigate right now when it comes to the full library of Xbox games, but I mean, I still think about this. We remember back in 2013 when Don Matrick basically was telling us you were going to need an internet connection then, and there was massive pushback to where Sony was even making fun of them. But here we are now, where both systems seemingly are very reliant on an internet connection. Now, the PlayStation 5 much less so than the Xbox Series X and the Series S, at least at this time, but we have all digital systems now. Like, those are very internet bound. Like, you have to have a connection to really use them at all, since they're all digital systems, right? You're not popping physical discs in. It's very interesting to me how much things have changed in the overall gaming landscape in just 7 or 8 years now, where everyone is much more receptive to the idea of being online at all times. I would say out of all of this, the most alarming thing is that you need an internet connection for the Xbox Series X or the S, or even the Xbox One, I believe, to just work it all out of the box. The PS5, that just works fine when you plug it in and turn it on, but you need to have a server check for the Xbox Series X out of the box. And that was something that was mentioned when the system first came out right at the end of last year in November, that it needs to call to the server for you to even get past the initial startup screen, which if you don't have a solid internet connection at that time that can make that call to the server, then you kind of have a paperweight, or you got to go over to like a friend's house or somebody who has an internet connection to at least set that up. Now, I'm not sure if Microsoft will respond to this in any way, because it's kind of difficult, since when you put that Xbox One game in, it is looking for a configuration file from the server. However, it is good to hear that the Series X disc that you get, like for Devil May Cry 5 or other games, I guess, that are now coming out as Xbox Series X games, they just work. It's just, we're going through this back catalog of Microsoft games, and yeah, some of them are just gonna need internet connections. Don Matrick told us that in 2013, guys, come on. Next up, let's talk about Biomutant, as it is out today. It's out for the PS4, the Xbox One, the PC, and the PS5 and the Series systems through backwards compatibility, and the reviews hit. We'll take a look at them here. It is currently sitting at a 68 on Metacritic. I'll admit, that's lower than I thought it was gonna be. I was thinking it might be in the mid-70s here, but from what I can tell with critic reviews that we have here, it's very divisive. A lot of different experiences with this game. 18 positive, 21 mixed, 5 negative. We have reviews scaling all over the place. A 95 from GameSpace, a 90 from Attack of the Fanboy, but then we can go down to the bottom, Games Radar with a 60, Gamer.no with a 40. I saw another publication give it like a 35 and said it belonged in a dumpster. I've been playing it for the last week or so, and I've enjoyed my time with it, but it's not a super overly impressive game. It's not like a big AAA, big budget style game. It would be more in the line of what people call a AA game. Big open world, action, adventure, RPG, but it does come with quite a bit of that open world jank, if that's the best way to say it, where things don't really, I guess, feel as complete when it comes to scaling terrain, for example. Just kind of slide off the side of it, or just the overall movements and combat can feel a bit disjointed at times, but I was having fun exploring the world. That it looks great, like in motion, very vibrant color choices that they used for the world, and for the most part, I think you'll get your time out of the game, but as I was going through and doing a lot of the side quests, even the main quests, it felt very samey, I guess is the best way to say it. It didn't feel like they took a lot of chances with some of the different side quests, and it just didn't seem like the big-time action RPG adventure game that I was really looking for, but I think it's a game to definitely keep your eye on as we go along. Hopefully they have patches and different things they can put out to work on polishing the game more as they go forward, but I would certainly check out several reviews, definitely video reviews, before you decide to pick this one up, or if you think you might want to wait on it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation Plus for the month of June, as we are kind of expecting Sony to update us here pretty soon in the next week or so as to what games we can look forward to, but it does appear we may have had the games leak out early from a website who's actually been leaking these PlayStation Plus lineups very accurately over the last year or so, and there's one game in there that got a lot of people talking. We have over here this at Push Square saying Spanish website area claims it knows what games PlayStation Plus subscribers can look forward to playing next month. The PlayStation Plus June 2021 lineup reportedly includes Operation Tango for PS5 users, as well as Star Wars Squadrons and a new version of Virtua Fighter 5 named Ultimate Showdown. This edition previously leaked on the PlayStation Store, which we can see right here, PlayStation game sizes as it was uploaded, and that's Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown Virtua Fighter Esports. The download size is 12.347 gigabytes without an update, so it's basically just sitting on the PlayStation Network right now, waiting to be unveiled. Remember, we also saw a trademark and rating go up for this new Virtua Fighter game, this Virtua Fighter 5 game. So it's exciting stuff to hear that Virtua Fighter could be making a comeback, I guess, right into PlayStation Plus, that obviously would get more eyes on the game and the series. And we know Sony has invested heavily into things like Evo now in the esports scene, so it makes sense that they might want to be doing this, partnered with Sega to get more people interested in some of these fighting games. And I know a lot of people would be excited to see Virtua Fighter make a bit of a comeback here onto the PS5, even just through backwards compatibility on the PS4. Still good to get this game kind of up to newer people. So here's hoping this list is correct, because even like Star Wars Squadrons, Operation Tango, there's some other good games there too, but keep an eye out for Virtua Fighter, because I think fans of the series will be pretty excited here soon. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you concerned about the growth of DRM over the last 10 years, with the Xbox Series X, for example, unable to play most games without an internet connection? 85% of you said yes, DRM will make game preservation difficult, and then 15% said no, I'm always connected to the internet and don't think about it. And I saw that quite a bit. A lot of people are like, well, I'm always connected to the internet anyway. It's more so, I guess, in the future, 20, 30 years from now, when we look back on this generation and we realize, wow, yeah, we can't play those games because you never know what could happen. I mean, the servers get shut off. I mean, it's Microsoft, so a lot of people assume right now that we won't have to worry about that in 30, 40 years even, but you never know what could happen in the future. I mean, we talked about this when PlayStation was working to shut down their stores and they kind of backed off of that, but something to keep an eye on here with Microsoft and the Xbox Series systems, as there was a time where Microsoft almost exited with how poorly the Xbox One was doing from the console market. So just something to keep an eye on as we go forward here with the idea of game preservation from this generation. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from NHRT. We're really gonna talk snowboarding games without mentioning cool borders. You know what? I started going through the comments, and you can see here, I did some bullet points of games that people were mentioning, and I forgot about how many awesome games outside of even just SSX we had in the snowboarding genre, like Dark Summit, Snowboard Kids, Shaun White Snowboarding. Obviously, you mentioned Cool Borders there, NHRT, and there were several of them. I believe there was 4 of them. But then like Rippin' Riders on the Dreamcast. Wow, we had a ton of really cool snowboarding games back then, and they were really cool to play through, but I feel like we've kind of fallen off with that series. Although we also fell off with the Tony Hawk series and the skateboarding genre, and that's kind of made a bit of a revival here. So maybe it's time for another SSX game from EA. Let me know if you would like to see EA take a shot at that, or if you'd be concerned that they might go the full massive microtransaction route with that one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's the Nintendo Switch eShop. We hear about this patent that's now been made public. Do you like the idea of Nintendo working out ways to suggest different games to you? And do you think user ratings would actually work on the eShop? Let me know about that one. Also, what about this whole situation around the Xbox and online activation for not only the system, but some of the backwards compatible games and even Xbox One games that have updates for the Series X? And then what about Biomutant? Are the reviews turning you off now that it's sitting at a 68 for Metacritic, or are you curious because you've seen some more video of it? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.